Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Sean Huggins and this is Europe with Hugs. Thank you so much for being here. I'm an American looking to learn more about life in Europe through watching silly videos and stuff on the internet with you guys. And today we have a very interesting video. Check it out. Why European trucks have up to 770 horsepower and the US don't. Oh man. European trucks are bigger, faster, stronger than the U.S. trucks. What does this mean for America? How is this possible? How can the land of the free not have the biggest, baddest trucks in the world? I don't know. I mean, it seems like every single car on the road in America is a truck. Maybe not obviously a, freight truck or whatever you call them. The big trucks, most of them are pickup trucks, personal pickup trucks, but still trucks nonetheless. So how is it that Europe has bigger truck engines? I don't know. We're going to find out. I don't know anything about trucks or engines or anything. I don't really know anything about anything, so we're going to see. Let's find out.
Have you ever wondered why the semi-trucks in Europe are available with these massive engines?
No. Not until I clicked on this video. But now I'm interested.
Such as the Volvo D16K with 750 horsepower and 3,550 Newton meters, and
Holy
the Scania
crap, that's a lot of
V8
Newton
770 horsepower with 3,700 Newton meters.
Wow.
Where in the US, engines only have a maximum of around 605 horsepower and 2,780 Newton meters, even though the trucks are so much bigger.
So even though the American trucks are bigger in size, they have a maximum smaller engine. We got to get to the bottom of this.
There are several reasons why truck engines in Europe are somewhat larger and more powerful than in the US. So, let's take a look at them.
I like the red engine for no other reason other than it's red. It looks cool. Anyways.
Horsepower versus Newton meters and pound-feet. Before explaining why the European trucks have these big engines, let's make it clear that trucks really don't need that many horsepower. Rather, it is the amount of torque the engine is able to produce that is important to haul the massive loads.
Twerk? Like Nicki Minaj? Or what?
Torque is a rotating force produced by the engine's crankshaft. The more torque produced, the greater its ability to perform work, which is measured in Newton meter in EU and as pound-feet in US. Trucks in EU versus US. Before comparing the engines, you might have noticed that there is a big difference in the cabs of the European trucks compared to the US ones.
True.
We actually made an entire video showing and explaining why they are so different, so click on the link in the description and find out why. The engines in US. The four major engine manufacturers in the US are PACCAR, Detroit, Mack, and Cummins. Also, a lot of Caterpillar truck engines are driving around in the US, but they stopped manufacturing on-highway engines in 2010 due to increasing emission regulations. The most sold engine in US is the Detroit DD15, which is a 14.8-liter inline-six engine with 505 horsepower and 1,750 pound-feet, which is used on the truck brands Freightliner and Western Star. Most of the US engines are around 12 to 15-liter engines with around 400 to 550 horsepower.
Okay, but why?
The US truck brands use engines from separate manufacturer, like PACCAR, Detroit, and so on, whereas European truck brands each make their own engines.
Oh.
The engines in Europe. In Europe, the brands MAN, DAF, Scania, Volvo, Renault, Iveco, and Mercedes-Benz are available, each with their version of a truck engine. DAF drives with a PACCAR engine, and Volvo, Mack, and Renault also share engine parts and technologies. Also, Detroit is owned by Daimler Group, who also owns Mercedes-Benz, and the Traton Group owns both MAN and Scania, which are coming with a shared engine at the end of 2024.
Dang, so all these big companies own multiple other companies underneath it. The umbrella is growing. Interesting.
So, the different engines probably share more components and technologies than you might think, and the difference between them may not be that big at all.
Okay.
The European engines range from around 440 horsepower to 640. However, Volvo and Scania are separating from the other brands with their massive engines. The Volvo D16K, which is the world's strongest inline-six engine with 750 horsepower and 3,550 Newton-meters, is available on the Volvo FH models.
Okay. But why?
Also an option on the European market is the even bigger Scania V8 with 770 horsepower and 3,700 Newton-meters, which is the strongest truck engine produced in Europe.
Wow.
So, now you know a little about what type of engines the EU have and the type US have.
Yeah.
But we still don't know why it is that these big engines are not available on the US market.
Yeah.
So, let's get to it. Weight rules EU versus US.
Oh.
One of the reasons that
Not something that I would have expected, but let's continue.
US trucks don't have an engine with over 600 horsepower is the simple reason that so much power is simply not needed.
Oh. Okay.
The federal weight limit for a semi-truck in the US is 80,000 pounds or 36 tons, which a 500 horsepower engine with 2,500 Newton-meters easily pulls through the American roads.
Uh-huh.
So, because of the weight rules, there is no need for bigger engines, as they can do the work needed with fewer Newton-meters and horsepower. But it's a bit different in Europe. There are 27 different countries in Europe, which of course results in different rules. In Sweden, a truck can have a maximum weight of 60 tons, or in some specific cases up to 90 tons.
Oh, okay.
In Finland, the maximum weight is 76 tons, and they are experimenting with 90 tons. And in some cases, even more.
Whoa.
Most of the countries have a maximum weight of around 40 to 44 tons. However, many of the countries again have special rules which allow an increase in the weight depending on the type of driving.
Wow. Most have a maximum weight of 44 tons, but then there are some with over 100 tons? Crazy.
Vehicle
Holy
and
crap.
number of axles. With such high total weights, combined with steep climbs in the terrain, means that a bigger and more powerful engine is needed to pull the heavy load up the hills.
Of course.
Here, it may simply be a necessity with an engine such as the 16.1-liter Volvo engine with 750 horsepower and 3,550 Newton-meters, or the even bigger 16.4-liter Scania engine with 770 horsepower and 3,700 Newton-meters.
Dang.
As a smaller engine simply cannot haul as much weight. Landscape and infrastructure, EU versus US. The roads and landscape are very different in EU and the US. The US is actually a relatively flat country.
Oh.
There is of course also places with hilly roads and big climbs around in the US, but the big roads have few climbs and are generally wide and long.
Yeah, that's true. The East Coast and the West Coast have large mountain ranges, and also up north has a large mountain range, but generally in the majority of the middle, the biggest part of America, the sweeping middle, all in the middle section is fairly flat, actually. So that does make sense, I guess. Uh-huh.
Here, it is a bit different in big parts of the EU, where in many places there are only minor roads, with much larger climbs, and where the elevation of the land can change several hundred meters.
Dang.
These increases, combined with the high total weight of the trucks, places a great demand on the truck's performance, and more than 3,000 Newton-meters may therefore be necessary.
Uh-huh.
Also, the US is much larger in area than the EU, actually over twice the size, where distances can be too long or too heavy for the trucks. Why larger and heavier cargo is transported by train, as it can be a faster and cheaper solution, depending on the size and weight of the shipment.
Okay, that makes sense. If you can transport something by train, a lot easier probably. A lot more weight can be, moved more cheaply. Makes sense.
It is therefore a combination of weight regulations and the landscape in which the trucks drive, which is the reason that the European trucks can be selected with the bigger and more powerful engines than in the US.
Wow.
Reputation and appearance. The last aspect that has to be taken into account is that the truck drivers in the EU care a lot about the reputation and appearance of their trucks. They customize their trucks.
Same in America.
Paint them in unique colors, and modify the truck a lot to make it stand out. It is important for them to have a nice-looking and unique truck, which also includes driving a truck with a lot of horsepower, even if they might not need the extra power. There are many V8 enthusiasts who also just love the sound of the Scania V8 engine and are willing to pay more for this. Okay. If you want to see why Scania created the V8 engine and has kept it through all these years, click the link in the description. Also, there's a big shortage of truck drivers in both the EU and the US, and when drivers are hard to come by and want a good-looking truck with a lot of horsepower, it's a way for the haulier to lure drivers to their company. We hope you learned something.
Wow, interesting. I would not want to be a truck driver because I do not want to be driving around all the time. But yeah, it's definitely very common in America to have truck drivers like customizing their trucks and stuff too. It's interesting though that America has a lower maximum towing load that you're allowed to do compared to Europe actually has higher. I find that very interesting because I would have thought that maybe higher loads would mean, you know, more safety concerns, but I guess if you build the truck right, then it's essentially the same thing. But yeah, I just would have expected America to kind of cut some corners, allow larger loads to be hauled at the expense of safety, because in America, you know, a lot of the times it's like, well, you got to crack a few eggs to make some omelets. You know what I mean? If it's in the name of big business and it helps big business, then maybe there's not so much safety. You know, that's a pretty fairly common thing in America, it would seem. Whereas in Europe, it seems like in general, the European Union really tries to look out for the little guys, the individuals, a lot more. So interesting. But of course, as always, I'm curious what you guys have to say about it. So let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. What do you think? Is there anything that this video forgot to mention? I don't know. I don't know anything about engines or trucks or really anything, like I said. So let me know what you think down in the comments. And also, if you enjoyed, consider subscribing. We're trying to hit 1,000 subscribers, so it'd be greatly appreciated. Plus, we got new videos all the time. You don't want to miss any videos, so hit that subscribe button. And if you do, then thank you in advance. But that's all the time that I have for today. So thank you guys so much for being here. And as always, I'll see you guys next time. Peace.